When people talk about LEGO Indiana Jones 2, most people mention how much of the story changed compared to the films, or the first game. While I do think it makes the game worse, I understand why they went down that route, so they wouldn't look lazy. Probably the most controversial thing they chose to do was to make every final level have some crazy boss battle. That isn't even remotely what happened in the movies. They also made 3 episodes for the 3 first movies, but then made 3 for the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which isn't as beloved as the first 3 movies. But if we look beyond these flaws, we can see how this game also laid the groundwork for the future LEGO games. The reason I think this is because all of the new features and improvements, such as split screen. They nailed the split screen. I mean, it doesn't seem too hard to make split screen good, but still, better aiming. It was technically added to LEGO Batman first, but you could only do it with Batarangs. In this game, you can aim with anything. A whip, a sword, a gun, a potion and more. Level builder. This feature added a ton of replayability. This feature was also the main selling point of this game. I remember being so astonished when I saw the level builder on the trailer, and of course I will also be talking about it later. Indie Sweep. I mentioned this because it has many uses and it's a big improvement compared to what it was like in the first game. And by far the best feature they added was weapon switching. The main reason I like this feature is because it allows you to carry multiple weapons on you, unlike in the first game. This game consists of multiple different hub worlds. In these worlds, you can buy new vehicles, find collectibles and play levels. You enter a level by navigating the hub world instead of a map. This means that when you progress through the story, you also discover more places in the hub world. They even had to go back to map navigating and smaller hub worlds for a while, because those games weren't ready for it. The way you progress through the story in this game is somewhat similar to Skywalker Saga, because that game also has multiple hub worlds, and you progress through the story similarly, and this game also has short levels. Unlike games like LEGO Pirates of the Caribbean, these 2 games focus more on the side activities instead of making the levels the main priority. There are 3 level types: story, treasure and bonus. Story levels are levels that go through the story. Treasure levels are different versions of story levels. They take place after the story level happened and you beat them by collecting a treasure chest. Then there are the bonus levels. They are levels that are very similar to the levels players can create themselves on the level builder. The most difficult part in making these levels myself was the level design, and these levels are well designed. That's why they're good for inspiration and ideas. After you beat all the levels from an episode, you can build your way to the final bonus level, which is a large area where your goal is to reach 1 million stars. When I'm playing this game, I can't stop comparing the cutscenes with the first game. It seems that the first game tried to explain the story more accurately, whereas this game took a lot of creative freedom and tried to rush the story. Of course, it's understandable that they wanted to make all the cutscenes different and not see that much effort in them in order to save resources. But still, when I play this game, it doesn't feel like reliving the films, but rather it feels like a dream because of how quick things escalate and how random it is. Also, the cutscenes have a lot of unnecessary fish lens effects. I don't know why they added so many of them. Maybe they wanted to make it seem different that way. Let's talk about vehicle levels for a while. In previous LEGO games, the vehicle levels aren't as like as the regular levels. The driving / flying doesn't feel nice and the levels are sometimes flooded with enemies, which causes you to die constantly no matter what you do. In this game, enemies are less aggressive. They don't actively chase you, instead they just drive circles around the map. The level layout is also different. For example, look at this level in LEGO Batman 1. You go from area to area until you beat the final boss. In this game you have a large area where your main objectives are to destroy certain types of enemies until the level ends. Sometimes parts of the levels open up as you beat more enemies. It's obvious they really tried to make these levels fun and it paid off. Every vehicle level is packed with boosters and ramps. The levels are fun to drive in, especially the first vehicle level. You can drive in the city but also go into the park where you can take a turn to the left and speed through the library, destroying all the furniture. Another useful feature they added was that you could now jump off from your vehicle and enter another. Using it is necessary because some enemies require you to have a better vehicle to beat them. As a kid, most of my memories were doing a glitch involving an airplane and a bus and using the level builder. I don't remember how the story would progress and how I would unlock extras, for example. Of course, figuring it out kind of happened as I just explored the hub world and destroyed everything that was made of Lego. I think the game starts off strong. The warehouse level is good from start to finish. All the things you gotta do in the beginning feel like you're making progress and having fun doing it. The boss battle is also solid. I think the reason I like the level is because all the other story levels are either about fighting, driving or puzzles. This level combines all of them into a concise level, which reminds me of levels in other Lego games. I don't know how I feel about the fourth movie getting 3 episodes. 2 would have been enough. The reason I say this is because there are too many filler levels in those episodes. Things that happen in those levels never happened in the movies. In my opinion, it makes them feel pointless to play and it kind of cheapens the experience. They should have made it 5 and then used the extra time to make some of the levels longer. Or if they are really keen on keeping 6 episodes, there are a lot of Indiana Jones books and old games they could have added to this game. For example, about Fate of Atlantis. Of course, if they would ever make something like that, it would probably just be a bonus level. In the end, these games mainly exist to promote the films. That's why they get released right about the same time as their movie counterpart. I gotta be honest, the story levels got kinda boring. It was only after I beat all the story levels that playing this game became more of a treat. Beating all the treasure levels and bonus levels felt more interesting. Probably because as a kid I didn't play them as much. Bonus levels especially surprised me. Back then I didn't care about them, but now I do. Trying to find entrances into these levels was fascinating and beating the levels itself gave me a good time. I think the biggest reason why they were so nice to play through was that the levels didn't have dark lighting and it didn't look too complex. Understanding the environment was easier and thus figuring out what to do wasn't as confusing. If you have played other Lego games, you probably have gotten used to enemies constantly appearing throughout the level. Every single level includes fighting, but in this game there are plenty of levels that aren't like this, mainly the bonus and treasure levels, but also some story levels. They require more thinking than button smashing. I think puzzles are way better executed in this game than fighting, because fighting doesn't have much depth and it's repetitive, unlike the puzzles. Well, they did add some depth to fighting. There is a certain type of enemy that you will need a sword to win in a battle, otherwise they are invincible. Well, you can also throw an enemy to disarm him. They also added 2 potions that can change how enemies behave. One makes the enemy be on your side and the other grants you the ability to control them. In this game you don't have to replay the same levels, for mini-kits for example, which is good, because usually I don't find it to be as enjoyable as the story mode. The economy in this game is quite forgiving. You don't have to think carefully about how to spend your stats, because you can just replay the last bonus level of any of the episodes to get another 1 million stats, which usually takes under 10 minutes. That being said, it's not necessary if you prioritize buying all the multipliers as soon as possible. After you get them, you are going to have more stats that you can ever spend. There's a lot of content in this game, at least compared to the first game. Beating the first episode 100% took a relatively long time, and that was only 1/6 of the game completed. I also didn't mention this, but there are 96 levels in this game, which is a crazy number, even though all of them take under 10 minutes to complete, and most of them take under 5 minutes, for me at least. Finally, let's talk about the level builder. Once you beat all the level editor tutorials, it feels like a whole new game opens up. Creating the levels is easy and well thought out. It's clear that the developers wanted to nail this feature. Each episode has their own theme that includes different styles for walls and different objects. So I got to work. It seems like I had completely forgotten how to navigate the menus and duplicate objects, for example. But after a while I got the hang of it. I was supposed to create a level for this video to show all the cool things you could do with the editor, but I would always get stuck. None of the ideas I had were good enough and I would stare at the level builder without doing anything for 10 minutes before closing the game. I needed some inspiration. I played half of the levels from an old save, and what I noticed was that I made all kinds of levels, without thinking whether it was that good. I wanted to experiment and bring any random ideas and see what happens. I feel like now that I'm making a video about it, it has to be a perfect level. But I went back with a new mindset, which is to go with the vibes. I made this level which starts in the bottom left corner. You run through these obstacles and then hop on a bike. The main objective is to pop all the balloons. Riding the bicycle to the pressure plate will activate a fan. Using this fan you can reach the balloon you saw earlier and pop it. Then we make our way to the toggle switch and we switch off the water faucet. Then by pulling this lever here, the platforms start to move. We do a little platforming and get our hands on these bows. After we pop every balloon, the elevator activates. Up there we will find a grenade, which I will throw at this metal chest, blocking the exit. After I exit, the level is over. I also made 2 other levels. The other one is a player versus player level, where you need to collect 45,000 studs by taking out enemies. And the other level takes place in a town, where you need to complete a race and some puzzles. So yeah, I hope these 3 levels and the other bonus levels can give you an idea of some of the things you can do with the level builder. Before we wrap up this video, let's quickly go over the adventures and character creator. Adventures is like a playlist for levels. When you create a new adventure, you choose which artifact you are trying to find. Then you choose which levels you want to play and in which order. Things like which characters you'll play as and which vehicle your characters will use in the cutscenes can also be changed. But it seems like this feature was rushed, because I tried it 3 times and it crashed on each time. On the 3rd time I actually finished the whole adventure, but as it was loading to the main menu, it crashed. By the way, I only experienced like 2 crashes prior during the 25 hours I had spent up to that point. So crashing isn't that common. Character creator has some new changes. You can now change the face, but also the color of the face. There is also a wider range of weapons and items you can give to your character. Also, I gotta say that the fighting animations are much smoother. When I'm testing my characters, sometimes I just repeat attack while I just look at the attack animations. That's all folks. What are your thoughts on this game? I think the game is pretty okay. I'd rate it 8 out of 10. Probably 6 out of 10 if I didn't care about the franchise and I didn't have any nostalgia for the game. On sale, this game is $5. It seems like a pretty good deal to me, but I think the first game is still better than this one, because I prefer the longer levels, since they are better at explaining the story.